Today's talk is joint work with a lot of people from a diverse set of backgrounds. And the philosophy is about changing the future of what is a textbook. Now, I do a lot of work in development, and we've worked in a lot of developing countries around the world. And we have actually rolled out education platforms in Kenya, in parts of India. 80% of whatever we have tried has miserably failed. And it's actually very hard if you're thinking about education to actually make transformative impact. It's very, very hard. Right? And the other flip side is also that if you go to any developing country, and if you're looking for really good talent, or there is talent, but there is very limited training for that talent. So you have variability across skill levels, you have variability across knowledge levels, you have variability in motivation of teachers to teach. And of course, you don't have good content. Okay? And there might be some people from India here who might find this stat a little bit appalling. The Central Board of Education in India reduced the number of pages year after year in the math and science textbook, in every textbook. And the reason is paper costs a lot of money. So they had to print within a certain printing budget. So the question is, how do you essentially think about a future of textbook where you can take, so existing textbooks have a lot of problems. They kind of provide coverage to some degree. When you talk about Leonardo da Vinci and you talk about Renaissance, it's one paragraph in my history textbook, and then you actually go to the museum and then you realize, oh, it's such a big guy. So as a kid, you hardly realize what you're actually learning. All of World War II was 4 pages in my history textbook, or 5 pages in my history textbook. And you don't really appreciate it, right? And some of the best history that I've learned was from an undergrad teacher who was completely blank. And he taught me the most amazing history, right? So sometimes, you never know where you're going to get the most awesome content and, what does it mean to inspire a student, right? I'm not here to solve all those problems. But I want to talk about our vision of crowdsource learning, which is trying to bring in this notion of collective intelligence to think about how do you envision the future of a textbook. So this is a crowd, right? Each of us might be really good at something, right? So you can just put up a website and you can upload whatever you want to teach. Right? Maybe I'm good at piano, and maybe I record a piano video and put it up. And so what if you have a collective ecosystem where people can upload lesson plans? Right? Now, people's attention spans are also much smaller. So what you want is sort of bite-sized content. So if you're able to change the notion of a textbook into atomic learning units, where atomic learning unit is a single video, a single Wikipedia page. One question, one answer, right? Think about the smallest form of content. Now, let's assume that a future textbook is going to stitch together in all sorts of ways this future notion of a textbook. That's exactly what we want to do. Okay? Now, when you think about this, an obvious source to start is the web. There are lots of random content on web pages. Now, web has a content quality problem, and web has a content presentation and organization problem. So one question is, can I take random stuff from the web and create a machine learning textbook? Can I take random stuff from the web and create an algorithms textbook? The answer is more or less yes, with where we are. For many, many, many things that we want to learn today, you can actually take little bits and pieces. And that's how we ourselves are learning. Whether that's the right way to learn or not, we'll know in 20 years, but we have to wait for a generation. But the way education has changed in the last 10 years at least, has been to the negative side to some degree. I mean, not being able to concentrate on something and actually grasp it. While people might want to flip through and learn in a hurry on a mobile phone, to the best of my knowledge, having been a professor for several years and actually having seen and taught several classes, you really don't learn that way. But for what it is, people have that limited attention span. How do you actually tailor that to make a lesson plan? Now, the idea is a teacher can construct an abstract lesson plan. Now, I just want to say, I want to teach the basics of limits. And I want to start with some examples of limits. Right? Then I want to give some complex examples of limits. And then I want to do a problem. Then I want to do, El Hospital's rule, or which is something you learn in high school, especially when you're preparing for exams and so on. And so you can actually mentally think through what is it that you want to teach, right? Now, when you have that mental plan, can you transform that mental plan into a collection of search queries and figure out, is there something interesting in the web that I can extract from it? Now, how do you contextualize this? So we have a co-author, Sepper, who's a faculty in education, and he was like super insistent. Oh, there is this amazing thing called the 5E model. And he works with Marshall Lynn from Berkeley, who is one of the advisors to the president on future of education, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, in biological sciences, as per education pedagogy, they say the right way to teach something is this 5E model. Engage, then explore, then you want to explain, then you want to elaborate, and then you want to evaluate. So to learn a particular concept, they say, can you organize content in a 5E model? Now this 5E model is directly contradictory with our limited byte span attention time, but that's a different question. So what are we trying to do? There is this corpus of random information. You want to be able to query that corpus, generate a set of results, and a teacher who wants to teach just wants to search for a set of concepts and wants to automatically generate lesson plans. So we started with 2 prototypes of this. The first prototype, which was about 2.5 years ago, we rolled out in Ghana, and it started with a dumb user interface like this, right? And we worked with a set of teachers from math and science teachers in Accra, right? And half these teachers haven't touched a computer, right? This is the first time, the computer lab is like one computer for the entire school, right? These are really backward schools. And they came in, and we conducted 2 workshops, where in the first workshop, we had to sit with them to figure out how to do search in a search engine and find relevant content. So we literally started from the bare basics of opening a browser and sitting with them to teach them, right? And we sort of did a 20-minute pre-survey, and then we did a orientation on the 5E model and the platform, and then saw them experimenting and creating simplistic lesson plans. In some of these, the simplistic lesson plan also came down to just finding the URL and trying to just say, okay, this is relevant, that is relevant, and so on. And as part of the first result, we found that it was kind of useful, but there were a lot of reactions. I'm not getting into very many details here. One of the things we do is we deploy, and then at some particular point we try to write a paper, or we don't write a paper. So this was something we never published. And it was just sitting over there. And the first workshop was actually a little bit of a failure, though the numbers might look good, right? A lot of people present these user study numbers, but like the real perception was that people really had difficulty using the tool. Then we invited only 10 of the participants for the next round, because only they passed the test of having been able to generate something with a lesson plan, right? And we asked each person to create their own lesson plan, right? Once they got and these are teachers teaching math and science. between 6th grade to 10th grade, right? And we asked them to rate their own lesson plans and rate other people's lesson plans and so on. And overall, we got about 20 self-assessments. And 7 of those assessments for lesson plans were, that was really good. 13 of them was, that was kind of okay, right? So overall, we left with skepticism on whether this is actually going to take off, right? And 2 years passed by. We just let this project die. Okay, it really went on to building a full platform, rolling it out in Ghana. We had promised the school education system that, yeah, we'll deliver you lesson plans and so on. And prior to this, we had deployed an offline education platform in 60 schools in Kenya. So this had sort of a precursor to it, right? And there we gave some talk at www and dev about it. So then we built CollectiveTeach 2.0, which is now work in progress. So I'll skip all these bullet points. So you want to generate a lesson plan, right? So what you do is, I want to teach a class on computer programming, and you literally just say, what is C language, how to program in C. Literally just like a bunch of bullet points. That's what you want to mentally teach, right? Now, this mental input gets transformed to a set of search queries. Now, file type :ppt, file type :pdf, site :edu. You can do a whole bunch of advanced searches, adding buzzwords to the search, like examples, quiz, right? Basics of, how to, right? So depending on the actual subjects that are mentioned, you can generate a set of queries, right? Now what we do is, we post those queries into our own platform, and we use the Bing search engine for, if anybody's from Google, Google started blocking us, so we moved on to Bing. There's no other reason for that. So, I mean, we had bombarded over 100,000 queries from distributed collection of machines to hide under the radar and so on. But we generated a lot of search queries, right? And generated a sort of a lesson plan across the 5E model, but it was sort of condensed in a particular way so that you don't have to go through 150 pages. And you can add a lesson plan, you can select results, you can reorder results, you can save them, you can annotate them, and that becomes a lesson plan. So in some sense, I'm giving you search queries, I'm giving search result pages, and you tell me what you like and what you don't like. And you rearrange them in whatever way that you feel most comfortable, right? Now, you might be an amazing teacher in trigonometry, and I might be a really bad teacher in trigonometry. Can I search your lesson plan and teach trigonometry? That's the crowdsourcing. So once you have this, you get a sample result that might look like a bunch of URLs, right? And you can also get a sample set of URLs for evaluation content. So in some sense, in the future, we want to generate exams for free. If you're having difficulty generating exams, why don't you use the collective intelligence to generate exams? And you can also upload your own lesson plans if you have your own curated content. So you could generate a profile where you might have, lesson plans for algorithms or AI or math or networks or whatever, right? And on top of this, you can start searching for lesson plans. I want to teach a class on algorithms. Who has on algorithms covering, max flow, min-cut? Does somebody have a lesson plan for max flow, min-cut? So if you create an ecosystem and people start uploading, right? You can start doing rating, ranking on top of that, right? So we have built some basic rating mechanisms, and we've also, more than rating, surprisingly, we got a lot of interest from in Spanish. So customizing the platform to Spanish took some time, but we also got that done. So we're doing a deployment of this in Nicaragua right now. And for the case of this paper, we did a annotated study with human experts, professors and TAs of several. And we measured the quality of related lesson plans. Overall, we generated 10 lesson plans for algorithms, 4 for operating systems, and 4 for machine learning. Since then, we've generated a lot more, but I'm just giving a sample set that was done at the time of submission. So, this is a fraction of relevant search results. So what I show here is sort of engage on one side, but that engage is like non-question and it's really just content, right? Engage, explore, across those 4 stages, it's just content. Evaluate is just questions and answers, right? So the higher order takeaway is if you're looking for content, and if you have appropriate search queries, you can actually get 80% of the search links to be fairly relevant. But if you're really looking for things to evaluate, questions are much harder to find in certain subjects, right? And even the sites that have questions, or am I done? 2 minutes, okay. Even the sites that have questions sometimes are non-searchable or non-crawlable. They specifically make it such that you cannot just. So we only point to URLs here. We also got them to evaluate the search lesson plans, and the evaluation for the content part was pretty good. The evaluation for the questions part was kind of mixed, right? And this is work in progress. So what we're doing right now is we are doing a user study rollout in a university in India as part of the University of Mumbai network. And we are also doing a rollout in Spanish in Spain, in Nicaragua, and we are adding a few features to personalized lesson plans and grading of question of lesson plans. And we want to personalize lesson plans for different skill levels. And our larger thing is, if this kind of platform can actually take off, could it actually lead to a better ecosystem to enhance quality of education, especially in developing countries where there is serious lack of access to good content. So with that, I'll stop and take questions.